London Tech Week. And we are going with a little bit of a bang. This afternoon's programming is all about women in tech, female leadership and female founders, and there's going to be some really exciting chats, including one on how we can heighten the most human of traits, creativity, using Web3. But first, you literally can't have a conversation about European female role models without mentioning this person. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce the youngest Prime Minister in Finnish history, literally one of the most powerful females in the world, and an absolute babe to boot. It's Sanna Marin and Mark Fox.
I'm so excited. You're so cute. You're so cute. Literally.
Well, hi. Lucky me, I guess, if I get to be on the stage with them. It's great to see everybody. And special, massive thank you. Let's say a massive thank you for joining us at London Tech Week with the People sessions. I know this is going to be a fantastic conversation. I think many of the women in this room, and sorry, I'm going to call out the women, will have walked into a new role and thought, I don't know if I can do it. You walked into a new role and then you were hit with pandemics, so many complicated issues. How was it on that first day? How did you start to prioritise? How did you sort through what you were going to work on together?
I will do that in a minute, but can I call you Martha?
Yes!
We already did this backstage, but now officially, also in a live voice. So we will call each other with our first name basis. What did it feel like? Well, of course, I remember vividly when I became the youngest Prime Minister in the world, 2019 in December. The former Prime Minister Antti Rinne had to resign and I had to step up to take over. I was the vice chair of our party and there was this election within our party council who will run after Antti and then I had to step up. And my first thought when that small wee campaign and election was over, my first thought was, do I really have to do this now? Do I really have to do this now? But I thought that if somebody else can do it, why not me? I think many people, especially young people, especially women and people from different backgrounds, they are thinking and wondering, can I do something? Am I up for it? Am I talented enough? Am I capable of doing things? But once you take those steps, and meet also other people that are working in these kind of positions. For example, I've met many prime ministers, presidents, world leaders. You can always, and you can always see that they are just humans. They are normal human beings with their own insecurities, with their own talents, and also their own talentless. So of course we are all just people and normal people. So I want to encourage everyone that you can do it. Just take a step and then you will see. Can you do it? If not, do something else. But be also courageous and don't put yourself down beforehand that you cannot do something. So I thought, do I have to really do this? And then I thought that, yeah, I can do this. I can try.
Well, you did with absolute gold medal standard. But I don't think even you could have imagined what was going to be the onslaught that you would face when you were in office. Can you talk us a bit about kind of when you went into the COVID situation, how you sorted out what to do? I think it's really interesting about how leaders make decisions and how they prioritise. And that was a completely outlying event that we hadn't experienced as a world before.
Well, the beginning of COVID, it was chaotic. It was chaotic in Finland. It was chaotic everywhere. Nobody had a manual how to handle a situation of global pandemic that was out of control. That was also something that we didn't know about. There was so much things that we didn't know about the pandemic, about the virus, about the things that we should or could do. So it was a chaotic moment and chaotic situation. Of course, we connected with each other. I spoke with the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and my Swedish colleague then, and the current colleague then, Stefan Löfven, and many others. And we exchanged information, what are our neighboring countries doing and what is the way that they are handling the situation, but it was also chaotic because none of the public officials, the public servants that would normally give you information or a platform, do this kind of decisions, it takes you somewhere and they have some kind of platform of decisions that you can make. Nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew what to do, and we have to take political leadership very early on, and we said, as politicians, I work in the Finnish government, my closest co-workers are 4 other women, because we are coalition governments and we have 5 parties within our coalition government, and all led by women. So these are my closest colleagues, and also key ministers were women, and then we gathered up and said to the public officials and everybody else, now we're going to do this. We're going to shut down public services, we're going to shut down many other areas of our society, even though we didn't know was it the right thing to do, but we had to do something, and we had to have that kind of courage also to make decisions even with the uncertainties, and we didn't have any kind of platform. Here's what you should do. We didn't know what to do, and then we looked what other countries are doing. Of course, we had information, we had the healthcare and virologists that had some kind of information, but even they didn't know what to do. So we had to make decisions in very uncertain moments. And we did, eventually, in the big picture, we did the right measures, and we picked the right path, also made many mistakes during the way. And I think it was also very important that when we make mistakes, when we got new information, we changed our decisions afterwards. So we didn't stick on some decisions that we did this decision, now we have to stick on that. We made new ones, and we changed our strategy so many times during the pandemic when we got new information. And I think this is also something that we should all remember. None of us is all knowable. So when we got new information, change your course, change your strategy. Don't stick on something you decided before just because you did it. So I think this was something that we also made together as a government and as women leaders together.
Yes, I'm sure that the fight you're working with 5 women was fundamental. I think what you just said is also fantastic business advice, that you should course correct, use the relevant information that you have. It's a very technical way of thinking actually as well, when you're releasing software and code. And then, having dealt with an extreme outlying global event, you're faced with everything that happened with Russia, Ukraine, and your incredible accession into NATO. Did you ever imagine that that would be the trajectory after COVID? How much did you sort of imagine in your mind that these were the issues that you were going to be facing?
Well, the pandemic was so difficult in so many ways, and it affected our societies so many different ways. Ordinary people's lives, our whole society, it was unprecedented for so long time, and it was really hard. It was really hard in different moments during the pandemic, because the pandemic also shifted and changed, the virus changed. And then came the war in Ukraine early or February 2022, and it was also unprecedented incident. For a long time, Europe hasn't faced that kind of full brutal war that is now happening in Ukraine. And also remember that night and that situation when we heard that there is a war going on, that the attack has started. Of course, we have the intel also during that previous day that this might happen, but still, it was so hard to wake up very early in the morning to face the fact that Europe is in war once again. And of course, it meant for Finland many kind of decisions concerning our own security, because we have over 1,300 kilometers border with Russia, and they attacked another neighboring country, so of course we have to make decisions as well. Before the war, I would have said, and I actually said, that I don't think that Finland would join NATO during this governmental period, because we didn't have that consensus within our country, not the people, not the politicians, not the parties. We didn't have majority behind NATO membership. But after the war, it was evident, I think, almost immediately that Finland will join NATO. And that's to do with the fact that we always want to make sure that our nation and our people are secure. This is in Finnish DNA because we have already, we have had wars with Russia and it have been really brutal wars. So in our DNA is the fact that we want to make sure that our nation is secure. And when Russia crossed that line, that Ukrainian line, to start this brutal full-scale war, it was evident that we have to make decisions as well. And during that spring, 2022, we had to also make another process. When COVID started, it was chaotic. We didn't have any manual. Well, we didn't have manual how to have this NATO discussion within Finland, because we have used to making decisions in certain way, to have discussions on a long run. And then we have to make decisions very fast and collect all the parties, the parliament, all the institutions, the government, the president, the parliament together and have that kind of consensus within Finland. And it was interesting also that I've been in so many meetings during that NATO spring when we decided that I think everybody in the room knew that where we are heading and where we are going, but nobody said it out loud, like, we should join NATO now. Because it's a dance. You have to make sure that everybody is on board, that have that kind of cohesion and that kind of collective thinking. And then you cannot rush, you have to be very fast and make that process very fast, but you cannot rush it. You have to make sure that everybody's on board, because you need that unity also to make sure that these decisions will last times, will last decades. And I think we handled it very well also together with our neighboring country, Sweden, that hopefully will become also NATO members in Vilnius meeting. We don't know yet, but it would be very important for the whole northern part European security.
I love how you describe that about letting the consensus emerge.
Yeah.
I think a different style of leadership might be right, we're going in this direction.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure, especially from the media. Why don't you do it this week or next week, or why don't you just say it out loud? And actually we coordinated, because in Finland we have this kind of two-headed leadership when it comes to foreign and security policy. We have the government and the parliament, and the government is of course under the parliament. The parliament picks the government. So we have this parliamentary line, but then we also have president that is in lead with foreign and security policy together with government, together with prime minister. And we coordinated with the president that neither of us would set our own opinion before the other one. So we eventually said it at the same time simultaneously to make sure that there wouldn't be any outside pressure, even though there was a lot of pressure from the media during that process.
But I think you highlight something so important. I'm going to return to it again about that kind of leadership, because very often, isn't it, the person that feels the most important, or is the most important, is the noisiest. It's a particular style, isn't it? Do you think that women have a different style of leadership? Or do you think that's a kind of clunky characterization and it's more personal to individuals?
Well, I think women bring a lot to leadership, and I think it's so important that we have people from different backgrounds making decisions, because then you have different perspectives, then you have different views on the world, and you need that kind of discussion that comes from different angles. So I think we need women in leadership positions. We need more people from different backgrounds. We need more people that look and are different. Today in the world, when we look at leaders, or political leaders, still there are not many women, and there are even fewer younger people. So it actually looks still quite the same as it did some decades ago. It hasn't changed that much. So we need women in leadership, and I think women also bring a lot of perspective, and they bring half of the population, and that's something for itself. They bring half of the population, so I don't think they should be neglected. And also when it comes to tech or businesses, we need more women also in these positions because they bring so much knowledge and so much to the table that otherwise we will lose.
Like any society, I guess Finland is a complex web of different power structures, and although you had the 5 women you were saying leading in the government with you, would you say that gender equality is deep rooted in Finland? When you give a scorecard of things, for the things you...
Absolutely. I think gender equality in Nordic countries are in better shape than some other parts in the world, and that's to do with the welfare society that we have. And actually, I think one of the key elements that you need is very good quality daycare, so that the mothers can also participate in working life and that they can be sure that their children are well taken care of. So it enables women to seek those career opportunities, to participate in working life, same as men. And we also need to build on that. So public daycare that is very well quality also, it's very important. Also the parental leave system, we reformed this during this governmental period so that the fathers also have certain part of the family leave, bigger part of the family leave that they have to use, or otherwise nobody will. So it's very important also to make sure that the fathers are engaging in the family life same as women. And it gives to them so much. I haven't heard no father ever saying that I regret spending the time with my small child. I never heard that. So it gives you also so much to spend time with your family, your kids where they are young. So it's very important from the point of view of equality. Of course, the whole schooling system, social and healthcare, all of these affects how women can participate in working life, what are their position in society, but we still have so much to do. And something that I worry a lot is the hate speech and the digital world, how women are treated and how women are facing this reality. It's so harsh, there's so much misogyny, there's so much of voices trying to put women down, to silence them. And we need to make sure, together as politicians, but also businesses, also big tech companies, to make sure that these platforms are handling in a way that also makes sure that women are not treated this way online, because they are now, and it's silencing them. They are very tired of this misogyny that they are meeting online, and we have to protect them.
Of course, 100% right. I read recently that women, 30% of women's voices, I mean, it's a sort of funny metric, are dampened by being online. They don't contribute by 30% less, which is a scary number. Which kind of brings me to technology in Finland. I know you were personally very influenced and thought technology was a very important part of how you wanted to govern in Finland, and stepped early into AI. You know, the current kind of psychodrama that's playing out around AI around the world, how do you see Finland's carving out a role within that? And where do you sort of sit on that? We're all going to die, or it's going to be amazing.
Well, my point of view of new technology is very positive. I think it can solve so many issues in the future, so I want to stay positive. Of course, there's always that downside. There's always other side of the coin that we have to make sure together that side doesn't win. We have to have that kind of regulation, even though when the technology involves, the regulation never gets to that speed. But my perspective is very positive when it comes to new technology. The one thing that I worry, and what I talk a lot, is the geopolitics. We're already seeing what's happening in Ukraine. I think that's only a forefront. That's only one stage of the war of values going on in the world. And we shouldn't be naive when it comes to authoritarian countries in the world. Russia is not the only one, there are also others. And as we saw when Russia attacked Ukraine and how they treated private businesses, they took over of those private businesses. And when we look at different countries in the world, we cannot be sure of politicians, but also business leaders and people in the private sector to not have that kind of effects on certain geopolitical matters. So I think we have to make risk analysis and assessments to also not decouple from these authoritarian states. It's not possible. But to minimize the risks, to also have different opportunities, to have different trading routes, for example, that democratic countries would work better together. Because our societies are already so digitalized and will be totally digitalized in the future when it comes for transportation or hospitals or schools or anything in our societies. And if we are that exposed, if we are so dependent on authoritarian countries, then they will have leverage on us also when it comes to very serious matters. So it's also a matter of security, it's also a matter of geopolitics, and not only matter of economy, even though that impact is also very, very severe. But yes, Finland, to come back to your question, Finland is doing a lot. We have so many wonderful businesses, startups, engineers in Finland. So we are actually achieving a lot with very few resources. We are a small country, only 5.5 billion people, but we are doing a top-notch job, even though we don't have that many resources than some other countries do.
Good use of top-notch there,
Yeah.
that expression. Sadly, I know you have to go and move house tomorrow because you're actually leaving office, but can I just have one more question, which is, you've achieved a monumental amount already in your career. What, in 10 years' time, if we're having this conversation, what would you love me to be asking you about? I hope we will be. And what will we be talking about?
I have never done this kind of like 5-year or 10-year plan for my personal life or matters or career. I believe that you need opportunities, and then you have always the possibility to take those opportunities or miss them, and then you have to make that decision when it comes. That kind of moment was when I became Prime Minister, and I wondered, can I do this? Do I want to do this? If I knew back then that there would be pandemic, war, energy crisis, and all the economic consequences, maybe I would have taken a week more to think, but still, it's been so unique. It's been so unique, and I'm so grateful that I was able to do this job during these difficult times also. And within 10 years, I don't know, I wish I could work with human rights, equality, climate, also new technologies, that digital world. I think these are also important themes and things that I want to work with, not to forget about also geopolitics. I think that's so important. And world needs that voices of defending democratic values. I really believe in that.
Thank goodness. Well, I know you don't want to make a life plan, but can we have a date in 10 years and we can continue the conversation? Because it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. And